Hi and welcome to day 3 of week 5 of training cycle 2 of 2021. Today, under the circumstances, or for the circumstances, this was a solid day. This was a strong day. I failed one lift today on the first attempt and got it on the second. That was the overhead press. And what I can say is that after the bench press fails, yesterday, the 2 bench press fails, I never got 95, I failed it twice. I am feeling my chest significantly. I have pretty significant, pretty serious muscle soreness in my chest. Not the kind of soreness that you want to be worried about, but the kind of soreness to where you know that that muscle has been hit, and it's been hit hard, and it's been hit with something that I'm not used to. Or technically, something that that specific muscle is not used to. So what my muscle isn't used to is failing 2 really heavy reps in the same workout and being close to completing both, but not quite getting there. That takes some steam out of you, right? That takes some energy, and that is difficult. But squats went good today. I don't really have anything to comment on about the squats. One thing I can say is my lower and my mid back, that is my spinal erectors. I feel like they're getting stronger, but I also feel like they're getting more fatigued as I had good mornings and other things. So really it's like I'm stronger, yes, but I'm also more fatigued. So the net effect is 0. But I do feel like I'm on the right direction with my squat. It's slowly moving up. At this point, it's past 120, which was a lifetime PR, and not quite a plateau that I couldn't get past, but a plateau that I didn't want to put in the work to get past, and now I'm finally here, so that feels good. 65 kilogram overhead press. This was the rep that I got. Once again, it's somewhere in that eye to top of the head level, like that forehead level, where your upper arm bone is parallel with the floor, your arm is 90 degrees out in front of your body. That's the position where I'm the weakest. Now, if you look at leverages, that should be technically where my body can produce the least force, simply because my arm is further out in front of my body, and you have to produce more force to counteract a longer lever, if that makes sense. This is difficult to explain, but it's like, I don't know if you guys have ever lifted something way heavier than you using leverage. You have to add a lot of weight. Like when it comes to long leverage, you have to add a lot of weight to counteract you once you got a leverage advantage. So I probably didn't make sense there at all, but my point is that I should be the weakest at forehead level biomechanically, but I also have muscular weaknesses there that if I strengthen them a bit, I would probably overhead press more. Now I'm on a minimalist program. I'm on Bulgarian Training. Yes, I'm doing extra exercises, but at this point, it's very unnecessary to add in some form of extra shoulder work, for example, maybe extra trap work, maybe extra tricep work. At this point, with the way I'm doing everything, with how long my workouts are taking, with how little sleep I'm getting, adding more reps, more exercises at this point is silly. What I am going to do is I'm going to add one more set on the glute bridges. But other than that, I'm not really going to add anything more to my program as it is right now. Unless I have to, because I have a weakness that has to be corrected. To the point to where if I don't correct that weakness, I won't be able to finish the program, won't be able to lift the correct weights on all the different exercises. So yeah, I got it. Okay. Rows. These were difficult, alright? Form breakdown. My lower and even my mid, maybe my upper, but mainly my lower and my mid back, which basically, when I say that, I mean my spinal erectors, right? The muscle that extends your spine, keeps it straight and flat. That muscle is a weakness. I'm working it on the good mornings, but at this point I haven't gained a lot of strength from the good mornings yet, so I've mainly just gotten more fatigue from them. So it has to get worse before it gets better. And once again, my lower back isn't getting destroyed. It's getting worked hard, but it's not quite at its limits. So I'm not worried about getting recovery issues in my lower back. And once again, it's a muscle thing. It's not a nerve thing. It's not a spinal compression thing. It's not an issue with discs or an issue with bones or an issue with fascia. Fascia isn't really a thing that would have to do with the lower back really, but to an extent it does. Like if you have really tight fascia, maybe that could pull on your lower back a bit, but no. Yeah. What I'm trying to say here is it's just a muscular issue. Yeah. And one thing I need to do to build more muscle is sleep more. Right now, the last 3 nights have been 7 hours, 5 hours, and 6 hours. Now that 5-hour night, which was yesterday morning, I woke up, like I said in the last voiceover yesterday, I woke up and the first thing that happened was I started bleeding from my nose. Bled from my nose for 25 minutes straight, which is that's just so annoying. That's annoying on a school day as well. So I couldn't really eat breakfast. I ate breakfast, yes, but I couldn't finish my breakfast. And, I didn't really have time to brush my teeth or anything just because bleeding from my nose took like 25 minutes out of my day, out of my morning. And, we all know how fast time flies in the morning. Like you wake up, 10 minutes later, it's gone 30 minutes. Know what I mean? It's like time distortion. And then in the evening, now, well, it's actually the same thing in the evening as well, to be honest. Yeah, I was going to say it was the opposite, but it really isn't. It's like, I can just chill for, 10 minutes and then boom, clocks move forward 48 minutes, What feels like 10 minutes is 48 minutes. And then you go to school, and school is like you sit for 10 minutes and you look at the clock and it hasn't even moved yet. And then you look at the little, well, yeah, unlike those old clocks, that little, what's it called, man? The little stick that jumps every second, that's moved like 45 seconds and it feels like 10 minutes. So yeah, it's interesting how time works. One thing that I can say about time though is this workout took a lot shorter than it usually does. I can't remember how long it took, but I believe it was about 1.5 hour, or 1.5 hours. And after this, obviously I jumped rope. Today, I jumped rope for the longest I've ever jumped. 12 minutes and 30 seconds after training. And obviously, I haven't rested my calves, or my legs for that matter, for many weeks, well over a month. I don't know if it's 2 months yet, but I do know that we are absolutely well past a month at this point, with 0 rest days. And that I say that I have 0 rest days because I train 6 days a week with weights. On the 7th day, I run really hard. So that hits your legs. It doesn't build muscle in your legs, but your legs still have to recover from it. And it actually, to be honest, it's more difficult to recover from the run than to recover from these training sessions with weights. That's the way I feel. And I do believe that, yeah, it is more difficult to recover from a very difficult run than from a regular, kind of difficult training session with weights, unless you do a traditional like bodybuilding leg day, which I don't believe in that silly shit, training a muscle once a week, destroying it, and so that, yeah, I might as well pull this one. All right, muscle protein synthesis. There's a thing called muscle protein synthesis. It's when your muscle builds new muscle. When the muscle, like the little strains of muscle tissue get a bit thicker, right? You break them down, and then muscle protein synthesis increases the width of these muscle fibers by a tiny amount, right? After you put a stress on them, whether it's a metabolic stress or a stress based upon tension. Both work, but the best is if you can combine the two. All right, so that happens. Now, what happens? And there's also a stress recovery adaptation cycle. Okay, stress recovery adaptation. Stress is I do a set of push-ups. Recovery is in the next, 10, 18 hours, my blood's pumping. I'm working blood through that little muscle right there, my pecs, my shoulders, my triceps. Then, after that, once I'm recovered, then I can adapt. Now, here's what's interesting. Muscle protein synthesis uptime only lasts for 48 hours. So, if I do 3 sets of push-ups, right? It takes me, 24 hours to recover. Then the other 24 hours, I can build muscle. All right? Now, a lot of bodybuilders, they train really fucking hard. And right now I'm talking about bodybuilders that don't take steroids, because steroids change this. But let's just say this. You call it your self-proclaimed dry mouth. You're a self-proclaimed bodybuilder, right? So you're training legs once a week and you're completely fucking annihilating them. Training like a beast, all right? Now, your legs are going to be they're going to be stressed massively, so they're going to be in the recovery phase for longer than 48 hours. And therefore, you might get some, but you will get much less adaptation. Remember the stress recovery adaptation cycle? That's why it doesn't really work to train once every 2 weeks and completely destroy everything and just tear it down. That's why that doesn't work. And then again, it doesn't really work to tear everything down every day either, because then you'll constantly be in stress and recovery, and you'll never get to adaptation. The trick is, like I'm doing here, I'm constantly in a mix of recovery and adaptation. Bulgarian training is different in this way, and the secret is to do enough and to make it hard enough so that you are stressing your body enough so that you'll get a significant adaptation, but you're still not stressing so much so that you're just trying to recover and survive instead of gaining strength. So these are some interesting things that we need to think about. And one thing there are 3 factors, main factors to how you can increase your volume. Number 1, sleep more. Number 2, eat more. And number 3, work on your work capacity. Work capacity is simply your ability to just do a bunch of work without dying, basically. Not without dying, but without having significant issues. Right now, I will say that I have a high work capacity. Not for, national championship fighter standards, but for off-season fighter, many months out standards. I'm in solid work capacity shape, right? Now, your work capacity is a mix of strength and cardio, right? The best way to test work capacity is, for example, doing manual labor, right? Because now you've got a tension and you've got a time component. Work capacity isn't really being able to walk for 30 hours in a row. That shows work capacity, yes, to an extent, but it isn't about that, and it most definitely isn't about doing a heavy 5-rep set on squats. Your work capacity is your ability to do 20 hard sets every single day and just keep working like that. Your work capacity is your ability to do 10 sets of 10 on squats, all right? That's indicative of a very high work capacity if you can do that with, decently heavy weights. Work capacity would be the ability to carry 20 kilo rocks for 5 hours straight, just back and forth. That is work capacity, all right? And that is buildable. And like I said, it has a strength component, it has a cardiovascular conditioning component, and it has that kind of in-between component, which, when I really say that, I mean certain adaptations of the muscle, like sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, which may help in being able to do more volume. But basically, the way you increase your work capacity is by slowly increasing your volume over time. That's the most basic and simple way to put it. I failed to mention this, but my good mornings went well today. They weren't perfect, and at some moments I felt like I was losing tightness and starting to bend at the back a bit instead of hinging at the hips with a very tight and flat back. But what I will say is I'm starting to find the range of motion. I'm starting to figure out the center of gravity on these so that I don't lean too far forward or too far back for that matter, so that I'm hinging enough at the hips and also finding the correct amount of knee bend as to support my hip hinge without turning it into some form of weird squat hybrid, and still bending the knees enough so that I'm not just bending over and just falling over from the weight. So I'm happy with these, and I don't really know how heavy I need to go. I have calculations for sure. And what was it? I have a goal for this training cycle. I honestly forgot because I'm very tired, but I have it written down, so I'm going to walk towards that. I think the goal currently is to 40 or 42 and a half, something along those lines. Goodbye.